So, Roshan, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your area of interest in the contact center industry.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being able to accommodate me this afternoon. It's a privilege to be part of the session. So my name is Roshan. I head up global solutions for a company called Callforce. We are a BPO based in South Africa that services the local market as well as the international market. Our primary geographies are Australia, Asia Pacific, the UK, and the US. And we literally offer 24/7, 365-day-a-year solutions for inbound, outbound, customer care, service, and so forth. That's the dime store tour of who we are and where I fit into the picture.
Okay, so I guess, contact centers weren't your first job, so you came into the industry. What attracted you to the industry, and what areas of contact centers do you like to specialize in?
Okay, so I initially have quite a checkered background. I have been in the telecom space for a number of years, for over a decade, and part of that they did include the contact center space. But the contact center space back then in early 2000s wasn't as big as it is today. And it has progressed over that period of time. I then moved across into labor, learned quite a bit about labor relations, labor law in South Africa itself, as well as internationally. And then I've moved into the official contact center space, and that's where I've been heading up the BPO sector or the solution sector for Callforce. And what actually drew me to this sector is that the sector has a lot of potential, in that a lot of individuals look at the sector as a stepping stone into something better, into a working environment. But when I started to understand exactly what the dynamics were within the sector and some of the complexities that the sector deals with, it dawned on me that the sector has one of the highest potentials for employment growth in the country. And this was actually highlighted in the president's speech a few months back, where he said that the GBS sector in South Africa is one of the highest potential employment sectors in the country. And for me, it was quite important in that I want to make a difference in what I do. And the best way of me being able to make that difference is by being able to offer individuals employment or even entry into the employment world. Excuse me. And part of that there is the journey that they go on. A lot of companies out there are looking for a 21-year-old with 30 years worth of work experience. And the only way they're going to get that experience is by them being able to, or having a foot in the door to be able to have that sort of work experience. And the contact center space in SA specifically gives a lot of individual that opportunity to get into their formal work environment, because the barriers of entry are not as complex as most other environments are, and the skills can be taught. But in saying that, the contact center environment has become a career rather than just a stepping stone. There are individuals that initially started with this industry years back and have progressed into being CEOs, heads of operations, and so forth. But like with any other industry segment in SA as well as globally, and sorry, if I can just add, this is a skill set in the contact center space you can either use locally or internationally. And that's the benefit of it. Most other sectors, it is kind of ring-fenced to a region, whereas this gives you actually a skill set as well as a life skill set that you can either use or you can help share with other individuals around you. And the contact center space in SA itself has been growing quite significantly year on year over the last few years. I joined this sector about 4 years ago. And in that time frame, I saw South Africa move from being nowhere on the world radar to being rated the #1 destination of choice in 2021. And that was a phenomenal achievement because we've got exceptional caliber of candidates in the country. We are neutral accent, so we kind of fit into any sort of market that we are servicing. I quite like specializing in the customer experience journey of it, so the customer service side of it. But in saying that, customer experience is impacted whether the client is having a collections interaction, whether they are having a sales interaction, whether they be having a service interaction. There's a component of the customer experience in that. And The frontline agents are generally at the coal face of that client, because whenever they are calling in, or whether they're WhatsApping in, or whatever the case may be, whatever channel they decide to communicate on, that first point of contact is an individual that's sitting behind a screen or working remotely for that matter. And for them to be able to interact with that client at a level of professionalism and dedication to what they do and understanding and knowledge is absolutely phenomenal. And part of that there is having an industry, or supporting that, is having an industry standard to say that these individuals subscribe to a set of, I wouldn't say rules and regulations, but competencies, to say that I am at a competency 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. And that there actually creates a level of comfort for not only for the client that we're servicing, but for the client that we are servicing on behalf of. In that, with us being in the local market as well as the international market, the biggest question that comes up with a lot of these clients is, what is your level of grading, or what sort of level of professionalism do you have in your industry segment? And by us introducing a system into the contact center environment, we can quite comfortably say to a client that we are at a competency level 1, 2, 3, for example, but more importantly, that we have an industry standard that we abide by. Yes. It's not just a thumbsuck or a nilly-willy sort of environment. It is a professional environment that subscribes to a code of ethics, as well as a code of conduct that we abide by. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
No, Roshan, it's absolutely singing to the choir in a sense, because this is exactly what the CCM designations are there to do. It's to sort of reflect the standards within the competency matrix that's that the CCMG has published and developed over the last year or so, and continue to develop and will develop over time, because, as you know, the industry is changing, it's adapting. 5 years ago, we didn't have robotic process designers. Now we do within every business, just about. And so they need to be recognized within the standards of the competency matrix, and therefore recognized within the CCMG designations. And of course they are. So all of those things gives the individuals a chance to document their career progression, because you're absolutely right. The career progression available now within the contact center industry means all these things are transferable internally and externally. And of course, for companies to build their succession plans, what better than a standard by which they can judge every single person within their organization?
Exactly.
Cool, excellent. Roshan, it's been an absolute delight having this conversation. I wish we had longer, but let's hope that we do again soon. But meanwhile, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.